What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and I want to talk in this video about physical games preservation and what the Nintendo Switch 2 has really done to all of this over the past week. I felt this is probably a pretty good video to put on this channel. We got to talk about a couple different things here, even behind me here, just very briefly, just even what the thing looks like. I'm not the first one to say this, I'm sure, but the thing definitely gives back the vibes of like PS3, like their platinum hits, the all red top. Now, I will say, okay, I agree with that's exactly what it looks like, but I'm actually not so anti it as other people are. I don't think it looks as ugly as some people say. Now, of course, a classic like person that's buying these retro games, you definitely don't want to go after those platinum that's kind of like a unspoken or maybe sometimes spoken rule. But besides the top being all red, and in fact, actually, you can kind of see behind me, and I think this was Japan that somebody took a picture of Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, is that the actual box cover or like the art wraps on the sides. It's on like the spine of it, which I think is a little bit new and I think a little bit different than what you normally get. So there's the visual representation, right? But okay, so what we got to talk about here, raising prices, the virtual game card, as well as this idea that when you're buying the Switch 2 version of select games, they're actually, and this is coming from Nintendo support themselves, maybe they made a mistake, hopefully this is fixed in the future, but they do say that some of these games, or maybe even all of them, when you buy the Switch 2 version, you're actually getting the Switch 1 version in terms of the actual cartridge, and then it's a download code for the Switch 2 version of it. So let's start right there, by the way, just in the simple fact of like, you're buying the Switch 2 box. You have to look at the box. It's adding to your collection. And I mean, you could take this from Nintendo and put in any of these consoles, right? You get a PS5 box, and yet it's the PS4 disc, and then it's a download code for the PS5. I don't know if we've ever been in this kind of weird world where like that's the case. It feels, well, number one, it feels kind of off, right? Because if you're buying it physically, and this really goes even for that like virtual key card, right, or game key. If you're buying it to have it. That's what I guess if you're buying it physically, you're buying it to have it. So that really applies to both these things, right? You're buying, you can't really choose Mario Kart World because that's only a Switch 2 game, right? So you pick a game that's backwards compatible that has a Switch 1 and a Switch 2 version. You buy it physically. Well, okay, number one, you might actually have to spend $10 more than you would have if it was only on Switch 1 because they've raised the prices, right? So now you're spending $70 or $80, so that's already fantastic. Then you get it, in person, and then one of two things might happen to you, and I guess technically maybe both those things could happen to you. Number one, you could be getting a blank disc, right? You're getting this cartridge that has the digital coding for it, where you put it in your Switch 2, it downloads the game. Now, the one positive with that has been pointed out is you can actually still trade that in. It's a trade. You can trade it in, you can rent it over to a friend. It's still in that sense, like because it has the code or whatever technology is behind it, you can still actually take it and give it to other people and it can still be transferred. So it's close to having the stuff on it, but it's not all the way. I'm still not a big fan of that whatsoever because, again, you're buying it. You buy, and I know Mario Kart World, I believe, doesn't do this, but let's just pretend. You buy Mario Kart World, you're spending $80 to get that thing physically. When you get it, you don't want the digital thing on the disc. And as we've talked about before, like this is a thing that other companies have tried. This isn't just Nintendo. Now, they are pulling some new tricks, but like, we've gotten those collector's editions where it comes with a box, then you open the box and it's just the digital download code. I would argue this is almost more insulting, though, because of those two reasons, right? Because at least with that collector's edition, that Steelbook is just for show. What's in there is just the code. There's no disc. That is laughable. That is atrocious because, again, you're spending $200, $300, $400 for collector's editions and you don't even get the disc. But at least we've been trained to just kind of like accept it now. With the Switch 2, you're getting it and you're actually getting a physical thing. It'd be like opening that collector's edition, getting the disc, but then the code, it's not actually on it, right? It's something that I guess just allows the system to be able to download it. So that's one thing they're doing. Or you open it up and you actually get the version of the Switch 1, and then the Switch 2 version is also just a paper, code that you have to do. It's terrible. Now, again, to that point, people are very confused because like so many of these games only apply to like one thing. Like one game might be one example, one game might be another. It's not perfect, and I don't think it's going to be perfect. And when I say perfect, I mean like understood. I don't really think people are understanding what's going on because like every game is kind of something different. And specifically this example was actually talked about through Nintendo support. Somebody, I think maybe even a journalist, was really trying to like get an answer, and this is the answer that they received. That's some of these games or all of whatever it's going to be. I don't know, because I think it can kind of change on a dime, right? As we already know previously, there's some of these cartridges that have half of the game on it. Some games have the full game. We know Cyberpunk is actually going to have the full game on it. It's just a mess. Like, if my rambling isn't crazy enough, why is it so much rambling? Because the whole thing is a mess. Like, anything that can go wrong, like any potential issue has gone wrong, right? Like the price increase, so all of a sudden now physical games are more expensive, right? It's potentially possible that that whole 80 and 90 thing was never real in the first place, but okay, Nintendo has still raised prices $10, right? So now physical games are higher. This is without, of course, the tariffs in the US. It might make physical games even higher than that, okay? So now physical games are going to get priced out. That's one potential issue that we have now come under, right? Number two is that you might not even get the thing on the cartridge when you actually buy it. And then number three is you might get the last generation, version of it, and then just a download code, even though, and that doesn't make sense to me, by the way, because then why wouldn't you just buy the Switch 1 version? Like say it's Zelda. I think Zelda's a good example, or Kirby. Like these are probably good ones. You buy these games on Switch 1, or you already have them on Switch 1, and then you either spend the whatever it is, $10 or the Nintendo Switch Online to get those enhancements, right? To get that upgrade path. Why wouldn't you just do that? Because if you buy the Switch 2 version physically, you could potentially just be getting the physical Switch 1 version, and then so you'd be getting like the same thing. I guess you have the box, like, so that's cool if you want like to get a collector's edition going of the box of the Switch 2 games, but it's just a disaster. And in terms of this physical stuff, it affects Nintendo right now. It's important right now because obviously this stuff is about to happen, over the next 2 months. But what this really does, and we've talked about this before with all these other followers and leaders kind of examples, like others will follow, right? Nintendo is not reinventing the wheel, I feel like, with almost any of this stuff, but they're taking previously tried concepts and they're doing it, and they're going further, and they're going weirder, and they're going more confusing. But don't think, at least for me, I'm not going to think this is just a Nintendo thing. They try it, and I think largely they're going to be successful, and others are going to follow. Like, this is what's so scary, I think, as we start to approach, we're like 2 to 3 years away, next gen. This is the next Nintendo gen, but the next, Xbox and PlayStation, consoles that are not going to have those disk drives built in, right? All of these consoles are probably going to be digital only. They're going to have the physical, you can get a disk drive that you can attach to it. That's one. Physical games, I think, are going to continue to go up, and probably will go up more than digital, whether it's the economy and world kind of political issues, whether it's just, factories and they don't want to do it anymore. They want to go more towards digital. And then, all of these other concepts, the disc not actually having the game on it. We've already experimented with that, but the industry is going to go all the way. Or, maybe just recycling those last gen versions and you just get the code, on top of that. Like, again, that's just so weird, but that's something I could really see a PlayStation or an EA or an Xbox, somebody, I could see them trying it too. So it's just, none of this stuff is good. I don't think there was one single positive thing besides the fact that I don't think the box art is all that bad. It's still not amazing, by the way. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. But that's the situation that we're in. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get more expensive, and I would say, like, to actually pinpoint the issue, it's also going to escalate this concept or idea of not actually having it. That's the big thing. That's like the annoying thing to me, is all of this stuff. There's so many different issues, right? You can talk about it for so long, but it really comes down to not actually having it. And when you're going for that physical version, you want it. I think that's just that is the biggest deal to me. That's why this virtual game key is so annoying. That's why giving the version of the Switch 1 and then a download code is so annoying. You're going out of your way. Nowadays, you're going out of your way to get a physical game. You do that, you want the game. You want the actual version that you're getting. So if you're getting the Switch 2 version, you want the Switch 2 version. And then you want the data and the game itself on whatever it might be, disc, cartridge, whatever. And we're getting further and further away from that as we go. And it's kind of slow, but it keeps pushing it, so that I'd say in 2 or 3 years, it's going to be close to being over. And probably in 5 or 6 years, it's definitely going to be over. So dying art, my friends. And, there's still a lot of people that do it. I think people will fight till the bitter end, and it'll be cool to see. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.